Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Parent-Family Relations New Year's Eve Traditions. This is one of 3 videos that are available to you. This one we're having now is going to be related to Southeast Asia, where we have long noodle dish, which is representing the longevity of life and good luck in the new year with a long life and very high prosperity and good wishes. So for this preparation, I have all the ingredients in front of me. I have a little bit of oil, chopped ginger and chopped garlic, some sliced, very thinly sliced chilies. You can use whatever type of chili you prefer. Some ground pork from the butcher case, some julienne cut sticks of carrots, some julienne cut strips of red bell pepper. I have broccoli buds, and the carrot and the broccoli I did a little blanching in advance just to be able to have those a little more tender so we don't have to spend a lot of time in the wok on those. I have a couple of whole eggs we're going to scramble in there with the mixture, and then some slender thin beans down here at the end, which are very similar to the French bean that you might find in the store for that process. I gave you a recipe for a little stir-fry sauce that works out very nicely with this dish, some chopped cilantro, and then we have garnishes for this dish, which are some lime wedges that each guest can squeeze over their noodle dish, some peanuts if there's no allergen concerns, and then some additional sliced chilies, which we'll use toward the end of the demonstration for the accent garnish. I took the liberty of cooking off some linguine pasta, and I used that because I think it's far more readily available. And you can tell the longevity of life by the length of these noodles, and that's really where all of this comes from, is the long noodle. And there are other noodles that you could use based on where you are located, what your preferences are. Austria and Germany have various things. Japan has a soba noodle dish that's very common to eat at midnight, and that one has kind of a midnight farewell to the long year we just finished and a welcome to the long year that we have in front of us. That tradition started back in the 17th century, and it just symbolizes, as I mentioned, longevity and prosperity for the family. A lot of those folks in Japan will also pound mushi rice cakes that are then steamed, and they use those for a dessert course. So today I'm going to make this dish in a wok. If you don't have a wok at home, a good 12-inch or 14-inch skillet on your stovetop under medium-high heat will work out quite nicely. But I have woks available here for this demonstration, so we're going to start with that. First ingredient is going to be the oil. I'm going to go into the pan. It's a combination of sesame oil and olive oil, followed by some chopped garlic and chopped ginger, allowing those to work relatively quickly, stirring those around. And I'm going to work in the chilies. When you put in the chilies, be careful, because the heat from the chilies will give you a ghastly smell, and it kind of gives you a little bit of a choking experience, which you don't want to experience that. So managing the heat, having those all working, not burning the product. We're going in right behind that with the pork. I'm going to allow that pork to kind of break it up with our tool. You can use tongs, you can use a spoon you have at home, a spatula will work, whatever you choose to work with to be able to work in either your skillet or your wok. Our objective here is to be able to just cook that pork till it's a nice golden color and fully cooked. Keeping an eye on the jalapenos or the chilies, whatever you so choose. Little serrano chilies they have in the store work out well as well. But on your grocery list that I provided for you has jalapenos, because they're just so readily available, and you can break them up from the big bag and buy the 1 or the 2 or the 3, whatever you need to work with. While I'm stirring this and working that pork, I'm going to talk about Austria and Germany. I mentioned a little bit ago, have a tradition of drinking red wine that's been flavored with spices, pretty much cinnamon, allspice, and they eat suckling pig with that flavored wine. That wine is very similar to what we have as wassail available to us here in the States in society today. So that's very, very common. They also, in Germany and Austria, will work with marzipan a good bit, and they even make little marzipan pigs, as the pig is prosperous and plentiful or bountiful, and that's how that comes into fruition for the New Year's traditions. You'll see a lot of pork recipes, or pork as an ingredient in a lot of recipes, as you may investigate what are some of the New Year Eve and New Year's Day traditions. Mexico, they use tamales. I mentioned that in a previous demonstration that we have in one of the videos. But if you didn't watch that one, tamales are used with either corn and or filled with various types of vegetables. They either use meats and cheese, or the other options, they wrap them either banana leaf or corn husks to be able to give him that wonderful experience. And the family will eat those either on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, very traditional in Mexico. And throughout Spain and a lot of the Spanish-speaking countries, you'll see a lot of folks will be eating grapes, 12 grapes at the stroke of midnight. One grape is consumed at the stroke of midnight, and the additional 12 are eaten throughout the first minute of the New Year's to be able to recognize the tradition of the clock tower that they had in the Sol of Madrid, and that basically opened the new year. So one grape per toll of the clock for the 12 for that first minute that we have for New Year's Eve entering in the new year, and that has spread for New Year's Eve resolutions and for the happiness and good fortune for the future. So those are some of the traditions that I have to talk about so far. After I've got that pork rendered out, you see a nice level of a combination of fat and moisture at the bottom of the wok or your skillet. At that point, we're going to put in the blanched carrot, followed by the red bell pepper, and we're going to let those warm up in with this mixture, letting these nice wonderful flavors all meld together. You just got to have a little bit of heat from the jalapeno peppers, but the flavors are going to be wonderful when we add the stir-fry sauce. It's a very nice dish. If you're vegetarian, certainly feel free to opt out on the pork. Not terribly necessary. Follow in right behind that with the blanched broccoli buds, little florets that you can break down from the broccoli crown, whether the stem on or stem off, whatever your choice is, whatever that might be. We're just basically rewarming the vegetables that we blanched ahead of time. You could really feel free to cook those vegetables in their entirety in the wok from a raw state if you so choose to. So now I'm going to take some of the ingredients, the things that we have in this wok so far, and spread them out to the sides, allowing me to have some good heat penetration in the dead center of this wok. Or it works out just as well in a skillet, just giving yourself some negative space in the middle. And at that point, we're going to put in the eggs, 2 cracked whole eggs, and go in there. That's an option. You don't have to use the eggs if you don't want to. And we're just simply going to scramble those. Very similar to the process in which we were to prepare pad thai, letting those eggs cook fully all the way through that. We have a ring cake as one of our traditions that we have in one of the videos, and that just shows the full circle of the previous year entering in the new year. And a lot of times there's a little coin or a little token on the inside of that cake. So whoever the lucky recipient is to get that little coin will have maybe a little more lucky year than the rest of us that don't get that coin. They use that in the king cake, and that's pretty popular throughout Greece, France, Mexico. And they consume that king cake type product or the ring cake all the way through January 6th, when those 3 kings allegedly made it to Bethlehem to be able to offer their gifts. Italy has a wonderful tradition, which is sausage and lentil stew. Works out wonderfully. They typically will eat that. It represents good luck. And they also have a little dessert that is little fried dough balls that are rolled in honey and powdered sugar. And that has roots down in Moderna. So those eggs kind of disappear in there, but they do add a nice rich flavor. Go in with the slender beans, again, that also have been pre-blanched in advance. So those are now getting rewarmed in either the skillet or the wok. At this point, I would encourage you to season the combination of those ingredients with some milled salt and pepper, whatever your choice is. You can taste it, you can take it, add more, but you certainly can't take the salt away. And keep in mind that the stir-fry sauce that we have has a measure of salt in the soy, so being conscientious of where those ingredients are that have sodium is something we want to consider and think about. So we're just really reheating everything, We're going to add in the stir fry sauce at this point, and that's going to enrobe in all of the vegetables. And then we're going to finish it with the noodles and some freshly chopped cilantro. I don't like chopping the cilantro until right before I use it so that it doesn't change the flavor and it has an alteration to things. This is a lot for one little skillet, but it works out good in a wok. So you can put if this is a wonderful as is, take out the pork, it's a wonderful vegetarian dish. A vegan dish, if you take away the egg and the pork, you've got a wonderful little stir fry opening for the new year. Now, Chinese New Year this year is on February 1st, and that is where the Chinese will certainly have a noodle dish where they will recognize the longevity of life with that particular dish. So now I enter in the noodles. If I was going to make this dish from an a la carte scratch state, I would cook the noodles, drain them, and then put those noodles into the dish right before I use it. So that certainly is an option as well, based on what your preferences are. Now we're just basically just getting everything enrobed with the noodles, and it's a delightful dish. This eats pretty good cold as well as warm or hot. It really depends on how you want to serve it. You can add all the noodles. Depends on how you can manage the workmanship of this particular dish. A little bit of chopped cilantro there at the end, give it some nice bright flavor. Love the flavor, those fresh herbs make a huge difference. Stir fry sauce is not a ton. It's not like the traditional Chinese that you might see at some of the Asian restaurants we have here in the city. It's not soupy like that. It's really just a quite nice noodle dish that really is something fun, pretty healthy if you think about it overall, to chime in the new year. So this is a lovely dish. Doesn't take a lot of time once you get all of the food product prepped. As you saw that display and layout of all those things that we had in the beginning, that's really where the time consumption goes into the preparation of this dish. So I'm going to move over to the presentation piece, and we're going to plate this up. And I'm going to take this lovely bowl, and we're going to present this wonderful noodle dish in this bowl that we could use maybe for family style service. Pass that around the table, or if you're having a little buffet, a stand up kind of event for New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. Get a nice variety of all those luscious vegetables and the ground pork. As I mentioned, the egg pretty much disappears after it gets cooked, but it adds another element of interesting flavor. So to accent garnish that, we have those peanuts that we had talked about earlier. A little bit chopped nuts work out nicely if you don't have a peanut allergy. A little bit of lime wedges so that each guest gets a nice wedge of lime that they can squeeze over the noodle dish so that they can enjoy that. And if you are bold and exciting, you'll add a few of these jalapeno slices or slices of fresh chili to give it a little bit more character. If you like sriracha from the little chili sambal, that works out pretty good as well. I always like the flavor of fresh cilantro, so I'm going to add that to the top of the dish so that can be worked into the dish itself. So that is our dish for longevity. For our parent and family weekend, we have a lovely noodle dish for longevity. I really appreciate you letting me come into your homes to be able to provide you with this Southeast Asian dish for longevity as we usher in the new year. So on behalf of Parent and Family Relations, we wish you a happy new year and a very safe and healthy new year ahead. Enjoy.